friends, today we're going to be reviewing primary and secondary sources. Just like the words indicate, primary and secondary sources are different because one came first and one came next. Since the word primary literally means first, it's logical that primary sources are sources obtained from an event when it actually happened. These could be newspaper articles, photographs of an actual event, diary entries, letters, anything that happened at the time of the event from someone who was actually there. A secondary source came second, just like the word indicates. A secondary source usually evaluates a bunch of primary sources and makes a claim about them. Secondary sources can be encyclopedias, textbooks, scholarly articles, or other documents about an event from someone who wasn't actually there. Usually, secondary sources evaluate multiple primary sources, and sometimes they make a claim about them as well. So let's talk about an example that maybe you can relate to a little bit better. Say I decided to burst into song in the middle of our class. And you told 3 of your friends who weren't in the class about what happened. You would be considered a primary source because you were actually there. If someone who wasn't in the class heard the same story from 5 different people and decided to tell somebody else about it, they would technically be a secondary source because they weren't there, but they heard the story from primary sources.
I hear her hair's insured for $10,000.
I hear she does car commercials in Japan.
Now, let's think about this for a second. Which do you think is more reliable? Primary sources or secondary sources?
A few minutes later.
If you answered primary sources, you might be right. If you answered secondary sources, you also might be right. The truth is, there's no real correct answer to this question because both of them have their benefits and drawbacks. Primary sources would seem to be more accurate because they're from a person who was actually there witnessing the event. However, people lie, and sometimes they don't really understand what's going on at that present moment.
And that's how Regina George died. No, I'm totally kidding. But she did get hurt. Some girls say they saw her head go all the way around, but that's just a rumor. Some people swear they saw me push her in front of the bus. That was an even worse rumor.
You may think secondary sources wouldn't be as reliable because the person who wrote it or depicted it wasn't actually there. However, like I said before, secondary sources usually pull from multiple primary sources, so they make sure that whatever is being said lines up and sounds legit. Therefore, it's possible that secondary sources could at times be more accurate than primary sources. For example, if there was a video of the September 11th attacks when the first plane hit the World Trade Center and somebody was saying, "Oh no, what a bad accident," that wouldn't be reliable. However, a secondary source, like a textbook written years after the event that was able to compile all of the information from a variety of primary sources, would be more accurate because there's that benefit of hindsight as well. Remember that primary and secondary sources aren't always written. They can be videos and photographs as well. Primary and secondary sources are really important to understanding history because they help us understand how events unfolded. Primary sources give us the benefit of understanding what it was like to actually be there, and secondary sources give us the benefit of hindsight and taking the time to really analyze the situation from all possible angles and perspectives. If you thought this video was helpful or you want extra credit in my class, please feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel.